Welcome guys, welcome back to my channel once again. Welcome to Miko's Corner. Today we're gonna be reacting to the Stahlhelm, which basically I mentioned briefly that I was interested in the different helms in the First and Second World War, and so a subscriber recommended me this video. Very nice of him, thank you. Today we're gonna, see what it's all about. I know that the Germans in the First World War at least, started the war with good helmets. And the French didn't have any helmets at all. Yeah, the French didn't have any helmets. So, yeah, let's go in, guys.
Troops, whether they're parading through the streets of Paris, fighting amongst the ruins of Stalingrad, or sweltering in the desert heat of Libya, one thing remains constant: the Stahlhelm.
Stahlhelm, okay.
I'm Indy Nidell. This is a World War II in real-time hardware special on the Stahlhelm. For the origins of the Stahlhelm, which is German for steel helmet, we must go back to the Great War.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, what the hell would that, steel, helm, okay.
German soldiers went into the war wearing the distinctive Pickelhaube, those spiky things. But these quickly proved inadequate. First, its boiled leather composition provided little protection against the shrapnel of trench warfare.
Yeah, it didn't look good
Second,
as well.
leather supplies soon began to run low. And third, the distinctive spike wasn't exactly stealthy and provided a nice target for enemy marksmen. So the Germans looked for something more robust and less ostentatious. They're not the only ones who thought along these lines, though. The French had experimented with wearing steel skull caps under their kepis from December 1914. Their
I mean, what the hell? Frenchies, come on, come on.
first proper steel helmet, the Adrian, began reaching the front in July 1915. For the British, John Brodie began work on his steel helmet in mid-1915, and it was rolled out to the troops from September. And elements of the German army were also experimenting with steel helmets, though not on the same scale. A Lieutenant Colonel Hesse from Army Group Gede, stationed in the Vosges in France, was frustrated by the number of casualties caused by rock fragments. In mid-1915, he oversaw construction of a frying pan-like steel cap. It had a prominent guard for the brow, face, and nose. Around 1,500 of these were made at his army group's artillery plant in Mulhouse. These Gede caps were never officially adopted, though. They saw service for about a year before being melted down, but the first real Stahlhelm shared Hesse's philosophy. See, while Hesse worked at the front, more formal developments were happening in the rear. In the summer of 1915, Professor Friedrich Schwerd of the Technical Institute of Hanover, an engineer working with the medical department of the 18th Army Corps, was in contact with Professor August Beer, an Army consultant doctor. After studying wounds sustained at the front, both men reached the obvious conclusion: the troops needed a steel helmet to protect against shrapnel.
No
In
way.
August, the two men sent their concerns up the chain of command and reached Chief of Staff Erich von Falkenhayn, who in turn talked to the War Ministry. Things moved quickly, and in early September, Professor Schwerd was ordered to Berlin to begin designing and producing the new helmet. From the start, he's pretty set on what he wants. His original pen sketches show a design close to the iconic Stahlhelm that we all know and love. In the development process, the Germans had the advantage of comparing their designs with the already issued French and British helmets. Testing took place at Kummersdorf Proving Ground in November 1915, and the new helmets were well received by the test troops. 30,000 were ordered for immediate production to be introduced in the new year, hence Model 1916, or M.
They look way better than the British ones. The British ones, I don't know if they're better in terms of how much they protect, but they look ridiculous. Look at this. What are you, 6-year-old? What the hell is this shit?
1916. So, what are the technical specs of the M1916? Reflecting the importance of protecting the face and neck, the helmet sports a prominent visor extending out 3.5 centimeters, and a neck and ear guard which flares down from the brim by 6 centimeters. Constructed of an alloy of manganese, nickel, silicon, and carbon steel, each M1916 is just over a centimeter thick and weighs in at between 1 and 1.4 kilos depending on size. They are produced in standardized sizes of 60, 62, 64, 66, and 68. Inside the helmet is a cushioned and adjustable lining made of leather. This, together with a chin strap, keeps the helmet in place. Those funny little doohickeys on the side, they're ventilation lugs which allow fresh air in. They can also be used to mount an extra armored plate on the front of a helmet, like for
Okay.
sentries or machine gunners exposed to heavy fire. In practice, this did not happen very often.
Yeah, it looks
It's
ridiculous.
important to make clear that the M1916 was not designed to stop direct fire. None of the new steel helmets were. It was not realistic with the materials and construction techniques available. All three types are to protect from shrapnel and flying debris. All three do this well. Where the Stahlhelm has an obvious advantage is that it protects the neck and the side of the head from anything traveling sideways through the air. It also has greater structural integrity than the French Adrian, which is weakened by the slots used for mounting regimental badges at the front. The new helmet quickly proved its worth. Reserve Lieutenant Walter Schultz wore his new Stahlhelm at the Somme in July 1916. Suddenly, with a great clanging thud, I was hit on the forehead and knocked flying onto the floor of the trench. A shrapnel bullet had hit my helmet with great violence, without piercing it, but sufficiently hard to dent it. If I had, as had been usual up until a few days previously, been wearing a cap, then the regiment would have had one more man killed. Also, the shape of the Stahl.
Imagine you're in that guy's position. You know, a few days ago you had a normal cap, and then some guy comes and like put this helmet on, and you might be reticent, and then 5 days later it saves your life. I mean, it must be pretty.
Helm, while not able to stop a bullet, was in a whole bunch of cases able to deflect projectiles, sparing the life of the wearer. There were problems, of course. While it
Of
outperformed its
course.
rivals, it was more complex, costly, and labor intensive than the Adrian or the Brodie. In fact, the British chose the Brodie precisely because it balanced protection capacity with low cost. Also,
Okay.
the Germans found that in the winter, the ventilation holes let in the cold air, and they would block them with mud or fabric. More seriously, the helmet's finish becomes shiny with intensive use, which is not exactly great for maintaining concealment from the enemy. So cloth covers were issued for soldiers carrying out patrol and observation missions. All in all, the new helmet was a great success. By 1918, some 8.5 million of them have been manufactured. A
Wow.
few minor adjustments were made to the design over the course of the war. The M1917 has an improved chin strap after complaints about the original straps falling off. The M1918 has cutouts over the ears in the neck guard after complaints about limiting hearing in the trenches. The cutout also facilitated the use of field telephones and reduced the reverberation of explosions. Only a limited number of M1918s were produced, though, and surviving examples are quite rare. And Germany was not the only country to use the helmet. Some 5,400 are sent to the Ottomans, and almost 500,000 to Austria-Hungary. And unlike the Imperial German Army, the Stahlhelm survives the war. In Germany's post-war chaos, veterans who bought into the myth that they didn't actually lose the war but were stabbed in the back adopted the helmet as a physical manifestation of their identity. It thus became a symbol of the reactionary conservative right. The main veterans organization chose the name Der Stahlhelm Bund der Frontsoldaten. Likewise, Freikorps paramilitaries decked themselves out in Stahlhelms decorated with skulls and crossbones, swastikas, or the distinctive German stick grenades. And of course, the Weimar Republic's official army, the Reichswehr, continued to wear the Stahlhelm too. So too did Austrian border guards. In Turkey, soldiers of the decaying Ottoman Empire used the helmets as they fought against the Turkish national movement. Once Hitler takes power and the Reichswehr becomes the Wehrmacht, a new model is introduced. The M1935 is a streamlined version of the Great War style helmet with the dome, visor, and neck guard reduced in size. The side lugs are replaced by low profile vents removing the rarely used capacity for a frontal plate. The M1935 once more comes in a range of sizes. Its smaller size means that it's slightly lighter than the M1916, coming in at zero point 0.8 to 1.1 kilos. Numerous Stahlhelm variations proliferate throughout the late 1930s. For the Luftwaffe's Fallschirmjäger, the paratroops, there are the M1937 and M1938 models.
Okay.
These differ from the standard by eliminating the visor, ear, and neck guards to reduce the risk of injury on landing and to prevent
It's just because they look much more modern. Those type of helmets for the paratroopers, they look modern in many ways.
obstruction of parachute gear. A
What's this guy
modified
doing, man? In
strap
the
is
corner?
implemented
That was
to
creepy.
prevent loss of the helmet in the air, and extra padding is added inside the dome. And it's not just the armed forces that use the helmets either. There's a police variant with a squared off neck guard, and a firefighter model with an aluminum or chrome comb running across the top. The Luftschutz, a sort of civil defense organization charged with air raid precautions, has its own model with a larger and wider neck guard with ear cutouts. So the Wehrmacht goes to war with the Stahlhelm, and it quickly becomes a symbol of German military power. With its high flat sides, the Stahlhelm is perfect for being adorned with insignia and badges. After the helmets are manufactured and painted, either in green or field gray, decals are applied depending on service. The Heer and Kriegsmarine go into battle sporting the red, white, and black national shield on the right-hand side of their helmets. On the left, all three services wear variations of the Reichsadler, or Imperial Eagle. The Heers has a silver eagle perched on a swastika. The Kriegsmarines is identical but in gold. The Luftwaffe's is different. They wear an eagle in flight, clutching a swastika. Men of the SS have their double Sieg, or victory runes, on the right, and the swastika on a red shield on the left. The image of the Stahlhelm is ubiquitous in the propaganda on both sides during the war. The heroic, blonde-haired, sharp-jawed Aryan in a Stahlhelm is the perfect recruitment symbol to promote the Wehrmacht and the Waffen-SS in Germany and the occupied territories. For the Allies, like the Pickelhaube before it, it serves to identify the German as the beast hell-bent on destruction and oppression.
Yeah.
But it's not just the Germans who are using this helmet. The Hungarians use the M38, which is an almost identical copy of the German M1935. These Hungarian helmets are also used by the Finns. Volunteers in the Spanish Blue Division, which fights alongside the Wehrmacht in the east, wear Stahlhelms with the Spanish flag painted on the side. Even allied nations do wear the Stahlhelm. The Chinese nationalists, having been on good terms with the Germans in the 30s and
Yeah.
partly supplied
Didn't the Germans train the Chinese nationalists? That's why there was so many conflicts between the Germans and the Japanese, you know.
and trained by them, wear M1935s while fighting the Japanese. Members of the Polish Home Army also make use of captured helmets. For them, each stolen helmet means a dead German.
Nice.
As the war drags on, the Germans make some minor changes. Most of the modifications are made to simplify production. The M1940 eliminates the bearing-like pieces called bushings fitted to the ventilation holes after production. Instead, the holes are simply pressed into the steel. The M1942 cuts cost and time by removing the rolled edge from the neck and ear guard and reducing the overall number of manufacturing steps from 11 down to 4. It still retains the distinctive look, and it still is just as effective. In a further attempt to save materials, research and development is conducted on a simpler helmet which abandons the distinctive Stahlhelm shape for simpler, fully sloped sides. However, this new design is soundly rejected by Adolf Hitler. He believes that the Stahlhelm, as it stands, embodies his vision of the strong, noble German soldier. From 1942 on, the helmet remains unchanged. Hitler's rejection of that new helmet is telling. It shows the importance of its symbolism. To him, it's not important whether the Stahlhelm protects his men better or worse than a British, American, or Soviet helmet, or about the amount of material it requires. For him, well, and for the soldiers and civilians on both sides of this war, the Stahlhelm exists as an ever-present reminder of German
Yeah,
militarism.
because when you see it, you're instantly reminded of the Nazi army, or at least the German army, if you will.
And whatever negative connotations the helmet has, Well, it will continue to find use long after the war is over. West Germany's border guards will wear Stahlhelms in the 50s. The Afghan army wears 1930s era Stahlhelms into the 1970s. The
What?
Chileans continue to wear them for ceremonial purposes.
Of course, the Chileans, of course.
That shape, the dome, the neck guard, the visor, will become ubiquitous. And while this is in many cases tradition, I wasn't kidding when I said the shape itself allowed the deflection of what might otherwise have been lethal projectiles. Just look at what American or German or French soldiers will wear in 2021. If you would like to learn more about German Army
Yeah.
equipment, you can click right here to watch a special, The Tanks of Operation Barbarossa.
So this is a very good video because, as he said, it was that helmet identified the Germans from both sides. It was ubiquitous. It signified the German army when you saw that helmet. Even in the both posters of propaganda for the Germans and against the Germans, there was emphasis on the helmet, and it really was so significant. Um, to this day, I mean, when you see the helmet, you don't think, oh, that's the helmet that Chileans use. No, you think World War II, Germany. Anyways, guys, I hope you learned as much as I did. It was a very good video. If you like my reaction, leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. See ya.